Hello and welcome to this Hornets Heroes YouTube series, episode 6. And I'm delighted to be joined by Watford legend Micah Hyde. First off, Micah, how are you? Difficult times for everyone, but thank you very much for joining us.
Nice to be here, Noah. Thanks for having me. Yeah, I'm trying to keep busy in these unprecedented times, as you say. Trying to keep sane and keep active, and trying to keep the mind positive and stuff. But yeah, I'm good, thank you.
Best thing to do. It's difficult to keep positive, but with Watford 6-0 over Bristol City, I think we've all got smiles on our faces. Let's start with when you first joined Watford. I think it was in 1997, and you joined from Finland. How did you make the move to Watford? What was that like, and how did it happen?
I was at Cambridge actually, and I went on. They brought me from Cambridge. Basically, that was it. The long and short of it. I mean, I was fortunate to go abroad in the pre-season when I was at Cambridge. That's where the Finland link came about. But I never went from Finland to Watford. I just went out there for a pre-season. I was fortunate to play like a Champions League UEFA games out there when I was a young age. But the move came about. Watford basically, Kane was interested in me. I think there was a couple of other clubs interested in me. I spoke to Graham Taylor at Watford first before I spoke to the other clubs, and I didn't end up speaking to the other clubs once I spoke to Graham and went to Watford. So yeah, that's how I ended up at Watford, really. Yeah.
I can imagine Graham was a real attraction, and I think most players that even had a chat with him wanted to play for him. What was it like at a young age playing under someone like Graham Taylor, who's a Watford legend, but he must have had a real aura about him? What was it like playing under him at the very start of your career?
Fantastic. It was good for me because, like I said, when I spoke to him the first time, speaking to him as the first manager when I left Cambridge, was leaving Cambridge, I didn't speak to anyone else because he's straightforward, and he saw the game how I saw the game, as far as how to impact the game as an individual. He understood that, I understood that, and he understood that. So it's no coincidence that he wanted to manage the national team with his philosophy and his way. But yeah, he was a good manager, and that's what I saw in him. Straightforward, had an analytic approach in the kind of understanding the players, and then being able to make them do what he wanted them to do and what they was capable of doing.
I mean, you were part of Watford's first ever Premier League promotion winning team, and it didn't quite work out, but it must have been an incredible experience, and that success that Graham brought to the club, and when he came back, and he really lifted the team spirits, and you got to the top flight again, and it didn't quite work out. But what was that season like playing in the Premier League? And was it your first time as well in the top flight?
Yeah, it was. Yeah, for me personally, it was a good experience. I liked it. I enjoyed it. Get more time on the ball when you're playing in the Premier League in the middle of the park. So at my time, obviously, I'm talking about my experience. So yeah, it was really, really good. As a team, I think it was as for a team, I thought maybe we could have. In hindsight, I thought at the time maybe we could have done slightly better as a team. But you can't show many players respect when you play against players. It's the last thing you want to do. When you play against any kind of player, whatever level, you can't afford to show them any respect. So I just thought maybe at times we showed some teams a little bit too much respect. But for me, I enjoyed it a lot.
I mean, what's it like as a player? Like, because not many people have that experience of playing in the Premier League and playing for a club like Watford. What was it like personally? I know you said you really enjoyed it, but it must have been not only for you but for your family a really proud season.
I think it's the latter. I think for your family, it's more of a proud moment than you as a player. I would say personally, as a player, I mean, every game is a game of football as a pro for me. So I looked at the game as like I was playing for Cambridge, with the same sort of attitude, the same sort of mindset going into the game. So I didn't see playing in the Prem wasn't a big thing as far as playing in the Prem, if that makes sense. Because if you think that, then it's going to be a problem. That's what I'm saying. So if you have to be able to know, where you're at, if that makes sense. For your family, for your friends, yes. And I'm proud, as a player, but nothing to get too overexcited. Because if you get too overexcited, you probably won't be able to do your job as well as you should do. So it's just another game as far as like at playing in the Championship, Premier League 1 or League 2. For me, playing in the Prem, obviously better facilities, better crowds and all that, but the actual game was the same things had to be done.
Was it a highlight though of your career when you look back on your playing days? Was it a highlight, that achievement of going up with Watford and then playing in the Premier League amongst the very best in the world?
One of them. I'm fortunate to have a few highlights in my career. Playing in the Premier, just being part of my journey. I wouldn't say it was the highlight of my career, no, because I've been fortunate to win leagues, different levels. I've fortunately got cup winners medals. I've got medals. I've got honours. I've played internationally. So that could be a highlight. I've played internationally for Jamaica, so my first cap could have been a highlight. So I wouldn't say playing in the Prem was a highlight. For me, it was just part of the journey, in my football journey.
And Watford got relegated at the end of that Premier League season, and Graham Taylor was succeeded by Gianluca Vialli and then Ray Lewington. How did those two managers compare to GT? I mean, Vialli, everyone knows, was this incredible footballer as a player. Does that transition into a manager as well? How did you find the experience under Vialli and Lewington compared to under Graham Taylor?
It doesn't necessarily transfer if he was a good player, a great pedigree, that you can go and be a great manager. So that doesn't transfer, and vice versa. So that doesn't mean anything. You can not have played the game and be a good manager. So the comparison between them two, most managers are different. And the only managers that I found were similar, that I managed, that I worked with a manager as an assistant and so on, and they have a similar maybe tendency in what they do, but every manager is different. And Vialli's way was an international way, as far as bringing in different methods. It was a continental way. It was an Italian style of methods that he brought in. So we learned different things, done different things. So it was a great experience. Two different kind of managers. Vialli wasn't really interested in the players. He's more interested in what he was doing. Graham was more invested in players. So there was a difference in itself. And Ray Lewington was similar to both. Ray was a good coach, very good coach.
Did you enjoy the different style of football under Vialli, the international kind of style that you touched on there, or did you prefer the old school Graham Taylor football that he played?
It's not so much the old school. Graham Taylor played attacking football. It wasn't so much Graham. We played winning football under Graham. So Vialli, he tried to bring in a different style. It's more about human beings, Noah. It's not so much do you prefer that manager style and the way he does things, or you play that man? It's more about human beings. Like sometimes you connect to people. You will connect to different human beings in different ways. Every manager, every coach, you connect differently. With Graham, like I said, he had an holistic kind of approach. He was invested in more individuals. I like to be more invested in individuals instead of treating everyone generically. And you get some managers that treat everyone generically. There's top flight managers that watch Champions League and they treat most people generically in what they do. There's other managers that done the same thing that are more invested in players. So as a player myself, I gravitate and I like to be more into the one that invests in a player. What can a player do? Can he do better than what we've just seen? Can we make that player better, and so on and so forth?
It's always difficult from my point of view looking in as a journalist, because obviously I've never played professional football, but I've learned from other journalists and those who I really admire. What have you learned that you've taken throughout life, not just in football, from the managers you've played under, but let's speak about Graham Taylor, who in Watford terms is the greatest. What did you learn from Graham that you've taken on into life outside of football?
Fair, no fair. To be fearless, basically. Not to be beaten, not to lie down. None of that aspect. We didn't have a great team, but we had a great team spirit. So we had great players, but we achieved. We achieved because we had a common goal. We understood. So he brought that to our thoughts, to my thoughts, to my mindset, what I take into life. So he was someone, and I already had that mindset before I met him anyway. So he's someone that elevated you as a person. He did. And he was a good manager like that,
I mean, a former Watford player and manager is Sean Dyche, in one of your former teams, Burnley. They are still in the Premier League, and Watford dropped out of it at the end of last season. They're currently in the Championship, working their way back up to the top line. A similar position to where you were, I guess, trying to look at that Premier League promotion. What would your advice be to them now? Would it be to continue that team spirit? What would you say to them? Absolutely, to continue that team spirit and not to look too far ahead. I don't think in my time at Watford we didn't really look too far ahead, to be honest. I'm not saying that they should do that. I'm not saying that by no means, but in my opinion, if you're going for something, you should keep looking for what's the next goal. So the next goal, probably the next game. Once you complete that, then the next game. Once you complete that, the next game. Instead of thinking we've got to win these next 4 or 5 games. And that's how I found it the best to prepare. And that's what we did really in that time. We didn't really talk about too much about if we win so many games and we will end up in this position, if that team drops down many points and then blah, blah. We didn't think like that. And I would advise, because there's a lot of young players there in Watford, and exciting players, just to keep thinking about what they're doing in the next game. What's their role? What's their job? Be exciting. What's the main difference between the Premier League and the Championship, in your opinion? Is it the physicality and the amount of games you play? Is it that literally you're playing twice a week? Is that the main difference? What would you say it is? No, the main difference is finance. That's the main difference. The money.
So the Premier League's got the most money, so they've got the most facilities. They can buy the best players and so on and so forth. They can pay the best wages to get them more rights as far as the rights on TV rights I'm talking about. They get the most. So it's money that differentiates the two. I wouldn't say so much as quality. Obviously, like I said, Premier League is the Premier League and they've got top class players, of course, but there is top class players in the Championship that could easily play in the Premiership. And so other way around, there's players in the Prem that could play in the Championship that you think deserve to be in the Championship. So it's money, really. That's the only real difference, I would say. And people always say about the quality, of course, like I said, better pitches and so on and so forth. There are top players in the Premiership, but there are some very top players also in the Championship. So I wouldn't say there's a clear difference as far as I'm concerned.
Absolutely. Well, Watford did really keep hold of most of their quality players. They've still got players like Sarr and João Pedro who score goals left, right, and centre, and they're looking to go up this season. From a pundit's point of view, what have you made of this league campaign? They started with Vladimir Ivic from the Israeli league, who was successful over there, but not so much over here. And they've had some good patches, some bad patches. What do you make of this campaign and under Xisco Muniz now? How do you assess this season so far?
I haven't got an answer to that yet, and I'll have to see how this season transpires under the new man, because he's a new fella. I wouldn't be fair for me to judge and say, well, I think he's done this and he should do that, should do this and he should do that. If his methods work and the team get to where they need to be come the end of the season, then well done. And if he could sustain that, well done. Well, I would like to see some stability. That'd be good. And like you said, they've gone for someone, like you said, that track record ain't the best. It'd be unfair not to give him an opportunity, because some people need opportunities to get going. So it'd be unfair for me to judge him like that. We'll see at the end of the season how good this new manager is, and if he does, that's what we want.
Do you think they can go up though? Is that too?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
No, of course. Yeah. If anything, if I'm a fan, so obviously, I might say stupid things. No, of course they can go up. Of course, why not? Of course, they've got enough games in hand, in front of them to win, to go up. So it's whether they can do it.
Brilliant. Well, thank you so much for your time, Micah, and let's hope they do go up. Let's hope they get back into the Premier League, and let's hope they stay there for a long, long time.